Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for staying for the second half of the option program. Another big hand for Dorothy Carlos for the really beautiful, beautiful performance. It's really tremendous. It's great. Before we get started, I just want to mention that next week, the performance, again, Sunday at 3, get up at noon. Jake McGinsky will be here. Jake's works with electronics, is also known as the director of Full Mantis, the documentary on Milford Graves. Interviewing him next week will be Ben Hall. They have a really amazing relationship that goes back quite a ways. And Ben studied with Milford Graves for years at Bennington College, so there may be some talk about Milford. So I encourage you to come out for that show too. That'll be great. But we're here with Dorothy now, so ask a few questions and open it up to the audience for a couple questions as well. First, if it's okay, I'd just start where we were when we heard the performance. How do you think about going into a concert like that? Do you, in terms of predetermined materials, do you have a strategy for how you approach a solo performance on cello and electronics?
Yeah, I think like usually when I'm warming up, I try to like find a sound that feels good in the space. And so I don't know if the first sound that I played really cut through, but I kind of liked that it like was kind of like sort of at the same level as like the ambient sound. But there are like a lot of different motifs and techniques that I go back to in a lot of performances. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it definitely feels like cyclical, like all the performances that I've done recently.
Okay, so you're connecting with materials you've developed. Do you have like a pace or a strategy that you have, like a sequence, or is it kind of you've got these components and they're modular, they move around as they feel right in the moment?
Yeah, definitely modular. I try to not think too much about it. Otherwise I'll get nervous.
Okay. All right, well, then I won't pressure you out of more answers for that. But when you also do a lot of sound installation work, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit about how you approach that work and if there's a relationship or a direct difference to the solo cello electronics material that you work with.
Yeah, totally. For last year, I did a residency here at Experimental Sound Studio, and as part of that residency, my main project was this sound installation that I did at the Lincoln Park Conservatory. And in preparation for that, I went into the conservatory and recorded myself just practicing, kind of, doing like a similar performance to what you heard today, and then chopped it up and turned it into installation. So even though the installation is fixed, it comes from improvisation and performance. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it can range from sounding similar to the original improvisations and more digital. Because I do process them process the original material, on my computer. So, yeah, I think like with sound installation work, it's fun because I get to really mess with timing and what I think of as like the physics of sound. And so that's kind of interesting for me, creating a space where it comes from like an acoustic sound. My cello is electric, but it sounds like, I mean, I think it's like, it obviously it works exactly like an acoustic cello would. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's interesting, like going from like acoustic material-ish to like this really weird digital quantized, like time stretched sound installation.
Mm-hmm. And so the sound installation work always originates with the electric cello, or do you do other things?
Yeah, cello and voice too.
Oh, okay.
And I'll record myself. But yeah, and also I think it's interesting too because like you can do things in different speaker configurations. Like I do a lot of work in multi-channel sound, and that kind of like to me is like a weird way to recreate like my classical training in a way, I guess. I'm like thinking about like being in a string quartet and like hearing like a instrument over here and like having it come back here, and that to me, like even like growing up, like that experience feels very spatialized to me. And so I think that's kind of like one of the another influence on the sound installation work.
Oh, okay, okay. And right now you're living in Chicago, doing a master's at the School of the Art Institute in Sound. And I was wondering if being at a school that's also associated with other kinds of arts, visual arts and other video art and whatnot, the other departments and the other students in those departments, is there an interface with them that's interesting for you, inspires you in your musical work, or brings you into other paths with other ideas regarding ideas coming from those art forms?
Yeah. I graduated from SAIC last year, and it was definitely like, yeah, I think like, I don't, I don't think I collaborated with anyone actually,
Okay.
or like, yeah, but I definitely like the idea of being a interdisciplinary musician, and um, a lot of the musicians I really admire are interdisciplinary and have some kind of visual art practice. But yeah, I'm not so talented at visual arts in my
Okay, well, maybe what I meant to say was, do other art forms impact your work in music at all? Like, do you find them inspiring, or certain ideas trigger ideas in your own work, even if you're not a visual artist in addition to being a musician?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like I think of like they're like, or right now I'm like working on a project with a dancer, and like there are times where like I watch this dancer that I work with, Mayfield Brooks. Mayfield like is very interested in like distorting the body and like seeing the ways that like, I don't know, I just feel like I watch her and I see shapes that I've never like seen before in like a human body, and I think that's really interesting to me. And so I feel like that's kind of similar to like the connection between like acoustic and digital, even though it's like a manual distortion of the body. I think like, I don't know, that's very inspiring to me. And also like my sister, I have a identical twin sister who's a visual artist.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, I think her work is like kind of similar to mine in certain ways. And so I think that's kind of interesting to me, or I feel like I pick up like certain colors or certain tones from her work that resonate with my work. And yeah, but I don't know if it's like so directly connected.
I understand. That's fascinating. You have a twin sister who's also in the arts. That's really, really,
Yeah.
really cool. Do you ever work together on projects at all?
Yeah, actually, I'm like working on some recorded releases, and so she'll do the album art for that.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, that's really great. That's
Yeah.
great. I had one more question, and this is something I'm very curious about as a musician myself, like the landscape of what it means to try to make music, creative music, in the current cultural climate we're faced with. And as a younger artist, or younger than me, what do you see as, for someone coming up now into the scene? I mean, you've been busy, so you've been doing stuff, but over the last few years, and then what you see are the challenges you're faced with as someone coming into and developing their reputation, career, etc., and how do you solve those challenges, or strategize around those challenges to overcome them? What do you see as like key things that you're kind of trying to transcend right now?
Yeah, I think like I think the main challenge for me is honestly money.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Join the
I think,
club.
Yeah. But like yeah, I feel like it's like, I mean, with all musicians I feel like there's like a balance to that. And I feel like personally, like when I first started playing, I like kind of made it a point to stay within like, or I don't know, like I feel like I enjoy, obviously the this kind of music, improvised and experimental music, isn't like super the most lucrative thing, but I feel like it is very rich in like community. And so I feel like having that is like very exciting to me, and just being able to connect with other people, I feel like, um, yeah, just this is just to say that DIY culture is like very important to me, and I feel like, um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe not a challenge, but just like something that I feel like every musician should at least engage with on some level is DIY culture and underground music, and being able to relate to other people in their community, whether that's doesn't have to be like a collaboration or anything like that. And I feel like within Chicago, there's a lot of that, which is cool.
Yeah, definitely agreed. Definitely agreed. So I'm going to turn it over to the audience. Take a few questions. It's very warm out, if you hadn't noticed, so we don't want to like super cook Dorothy. So I'll repeat the question because it needs to get recorded for the archive. But any questions for Dorothy? One, two. Okay, Jim. So the question is, what was Dorothy listening to as coming up and getting more involved with music?
I love Pamela Z, and like I think like the effects that she uses, like lots of delay, is very inspiring to me. But also like the personal aspect of her work is really interesting to me. And yeah, I got to work with her like a summer ago and perform one of her pieces, and yeah, that was just such an interesting experience. And like one thing that she said that really stuck with me is we were talking about her um, how John Cage is such a strong influence of hers, and I asked her like whether or not like she would tell someone that was performing her piece to play a certain way, if even though it was marked as an improvisation in the score, and she said no. And she said that it never is an issue because she only works with people that she really respects. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually kind of from my point of view, that's kind of the compositional process is the individuals, like not only what instrument they play, but what they do with it, how they think about things. You know, that's definitely a big piece in it. Another question? So the question is related to the use of delay, and if there's like a tone or certain sound that is inspiring, connected to the space, and how that affects what the result is.
Yeah, I guess like an emotional tone that I kind of try to go off of is like melancholy. I feel like that's kind of like an ambiguous emotion to me. And so I feel like that's kind of an inspiring place to start for that reason. Um, and so lots of sevenths. And yeah, I try to stick to um, notes that are particularly resonant on the cello. I use a lot of harmonics, so yeah. And so I try to think of it as like, or I think of my instrument as like a thing to tap into, I guess. Like, this is a thing that exists and it already has its things that it's particularly good at. And so I try to encourage it to do those things.
That's a great way to put it. One more question, then we're going to take a nice cold bath. Yeah. The question is to use audio-visual materials to transcend just the sound space. Have you done that yet?
Yeah, I really want to start doing more work with light. I haven't done so much of that yet, but yeah, I love like how light is like abstract in a similar way that music is. And it can be oppressive, like the sun right now, but it could also be very nice. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like there's like a wide dynamic range with light, and yeah, but have not incorporated it so intensely yet. But sometimes I have like a little light that's my bedroom light that I'll turn on. But yeah, pretty simple.
It's a start. It's a start. You mentioned you got some projects coming up. Do you want to talk a little bit about those before we call it?
Yeah, I'm just in the process of releasing some of the sound installation work that I've done, and a few singles on this label called Dot Audio Arts, which is run by this person Gavin from the project Cities of Eve. So it's more like this label releases a lot of different genres. Yeah, which I think is important for me because I have a lot of different, or try to draw from a wide range of musical influences. And yeah, so I have recorded music, and then I'm currently doing part of a ongoing performance in New York that I'm with the dancer that I mentioned, Mayfield. We've been working together for a couple years now, and next week we'll do a series of performances on this ship that is a museum. It's a 100-foot long sailboat, and so me and Mayfield and one other dancer, Camilo, will take over the ship and have a whole performance and do whatever we want. But it's still up in the air about what we're going to do exactly. But
Okay, well, that's a lot. Congratulations from both. Dorothy Carlos, everyone, thank you so much. It's really been an incredible pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, next week, Jake McGinsky will be here with Ben Hall. Please come out for that. Thanks to ESS and all of you for being here. Stay cool. Bye-bye.